Mm. Oh, crap. That is way too much. Oop. Look into my eyes. Look into my eyes. Whew. Hey, come on, Fuji, you got this. You got the box on me. Now focus. There you go. Good job, Fuji. Whew. Welcome, ladies and gents, to Tech Tuesday with Ted. Quick shout out to Robert and Max for being the first to jump into the chat. I'm looking at your chat, guys, and it looks like you were all interested. Saw the Apple event, One More Thing event. Yeah, and Robert says he's getting the new Mac Mini. What is your computer? What computer do you have now, Max? And hi, Crisco. Thank you for joining episode 3 of Tech Tuesday with Ted. I'm actually going to talk about Apple's One More Thing event a little bit later on this episode. First, I wanted to talk about the very title of this episode, my experience using iOS. This year, well, November marks the 28th month I have used iOS. Let's see, I guess you could say it's an anniversary of sorts. My first iPhone was the iPhone 8 Plus. Look at this beautiful guy. This very iPhone 8 Plus, in fact. I moved over from the ZTE Axon 7. That's good. Where was that? All right. Now, prior to, what was that, 2018, I was very much an Android person, Android for life kind of guy. And my decision for moving from Android to iOS was for not very pure reasons, I admit. Prior to 2018, my thought on iOS users was they were sheep. Sheeple, that was the term that's still used for them. Simply because, I always felt that, they could have gotten, iOS users can simply, if they simply look outside of their walled fence or garden, they can see a whole world of, devices that would offer them, more for less money. And, to that extent, that phrase still exists, I guess. Maybe not as much. Well, you can, if you look, if you're an iOS user, you can find an Android phone that will give you more for less. And so I jumped onto iOS to simply, see, what it is, that, iOS users love about it. And then, once I've used it fully, I can just leave that platform and just, comfortably disparage, on a high horse now, because I could just easily say, I've used iPhones, and you guys are idiots for not using Android. You're just lazy. And obviously, that's given the fact that I still have an iPhone in my toolkit, now an iPhone 11, obviously, yeah, I don't really hold that sentiment anymore. Uh, oh, let's see what. Oh, sorry. Let me interrupt my talk for what Robert is saying. I would never move to Android due to the privacy being somewhat questionable. Robert, I don't know what you mean by privacy. The fact that you have a YouTube account that you're using means that your privacy is at the moment questionable. Uh, but yeah, back to what I was saying. Let me rewind the clock back to 2018. When I had the Axon 7 and I was jumping over to the iPhone 8 Plus. Switching the actual art of switching over to iOS was very simple than I thought. I just used the Android, app, the first app Apple made on Android, which was to switch from Android accounts over to iOS. And from then on, it was just a simple. It was easy, setting things up. I was actually fortunate in that when I moved switched to iOS, iOS already allowed you to use the Gboard, customized third-party keyboards, which was great. And obviously because I was using a Android phone from 2016, jumping over to a 2018 iPhone, huge benefits and leaps. So I saw immediate jump boost in performance with tasks like gaming and whatnot. And don't even get me started on camera quality and using camera apps. And actually, speaking of camera apps, that was one of the biggest drivers also that I saw at the time from 2016 up to 2018. I was a huge Snapchat user. And to this day, Snapchat on Android just pales in. They're two different. They're two different animals, really. Snapchat on Android and Snapchat on iOS. And I think that's when you use an app so heavily, and you're now on a platform that that app is using that app is just so much more enjoyable. You start changing things, starts changing my mind. Things start, you you get it. And I think really that's one of the biggest proponents of being on iOS. And my cry of saying, being on iOS is silly because, on Android you can have more for less. I've now mostly changed my tune to the song that if you are a creative, you actually owe it to yourself to have an iPhone. It may not necessarily need to be the latest and greatest iPhone, but you should have an iPhone nonetheless, just for the sake of creativity. And I say this because, again, being on Snapchat works a lot better on iOS. And, Snapchat is one of those, it's not just like a messaging. Well, for me, it wasn't just like a messaging, platform. It was more like a creative tool where I could be creative with my stories. It was a creative outlet for me back in the day for my stories. And I actually still use Snapchat to make my thumbnails, which is very trash of me. But what can I say? It's literally quick and dirty, and you can see the dirt in the thumbnails I do. But moving on from Snapchat, there's other like things like Instagram works a lot better, and there's more creative apps that you can use on iOS, like LumaFusion, Afterlight, Darkroom. These are fantastic apps for creatives. What's that? And the Infinity stuff too, although that's more for iPads. They're all fantastic apps with great user interface. and they're only on, iOS and iOS. And if you could, do some due diligence and maybe find an equivalent on Android, but they would not look anywhere near as good. And actually, really for Android, the only like creative equivalents you would, if you were looking for a creative equivalent, you would end up with Adobe like Lightroom Creative Cloud and Snapseed. If you guys have, if you guys have any alternatives that I should check out, Robert, Max, Crisco 2010, let me know in the comments any creative apps for on Android that creative should know. Double points if it's a pay once thing, not it's and not subscription fee. Now, but being on iOS, there was a side effect though, and to illustrate the side effect I had, being on iOS, I want to show you a little video to show you what that side effect is. What people should have in mind when they're on iOS. They may not even realize. Okay, let me just show. Let me just find this video. This is a video of my making, by the way. I originally was supposed to do this video as a one-off video, but I never had time. So you know what? Let me just do it as a live stream and just get it out of the way. Okay, where would my airdrops go? My airdrops would go in downloads. That's right, downloads. There it is. Okay, in order for you to, well, actually, no, you don't really need to hear it. Share the screen. Application window, boom, share. There we go. Okay, and so the side effect of being on iOS. It's the accessories, guys. Look at this video. This is all the accessories I bought while I owned an iPhone 8 Plus. Look at them. You have a case there. That was like $10 from Spigen. You have a Rhino Shield bumper case. Right now, I'm showing you a glass screen protector, another $10. That Rhino Shield bumper case, I got it on sale. It came out to $25. Loads of D brand skins. That's about almost $30 of D brand skins in that little pouch. All again for that iPhone 8 Plus. I was trying out fast charging for the first time. That was I think that was $7. More D brand skins. Yeah, it's a lot, guys. And don't even get me started on the time it took putting on D brand skins, because one time D brand sent me an iPhone 7 paper, which I took way too long trying to figure out. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a third party. It's basically a camera that can be used on iPhones. So like an add-on camera. It's got a 1-inch sensor. That was $100, but originally it retailed in 2016 for, I believe, $700, which so yeah, that's a side effect or symptom of being on an iPhone. On an Android phone, depending on what Android phone you have, there's not going to be many third-party options on what you can purchase. But vendors love making accessories for iPhones, and if your will is not strong, you can be purchasing a lot for your iPhone. And so on that table, that was that almost? It was approaching $200 worth of accessories over a 2-year period. So bit of extreme, and that's also not touching on the software I paid on paid apps I paid on iOS, and I don't know, somehow on iOS, you just get comfortable paying for apps, which not a bad thing, actually good. On Android, you can somehow avoid doing such things. And people complain why people code more for iOS. They can make developers can make a living on iOS, and where it's more tricky on Android. What are some good apps that I paid for on iOS? Afterlight, yes, I paid for that. I don't regret paying for that, even though I rarely use it. Don't regret paying for it. What else? Dark Sky. So glad I paid for Dark Sky on iOS and not on Android. That'd be. It's funny. I don't even think Dark Sky is on my iPhone right now. Well, it shouldn't be, right? It shouldn't have to be because I thought Apple was going to bake Dark Sky into the system. I'll figure that out later. Let's see, what else did I pay for? I paid for Filmic Pro. I believe that was a $15 purchase. I paid for their First Light camera app. They tried to make that a subscription app, but I was like, hell no. So they made it paid, and I paid it, and now we're all happy. What else? I'm thinking of buying Metafo and Halide. I purchased Halide. And what else have I paid for that I can find on this app? I'm not seeing anything at all. Right, look at this. I was very close to, Moment has this app called RTRO, Retro, supposed to be. Fortunately, it's subscription, which I'm not going to pay for. But had it been, a one-time purchase, well, for whatever price, $5, $10, $20, I'll be all over that. But right now, my money is safe. Moment has not claimed that money. And what else? I feel like there's something I'm missing out on. Retro, something that I paid monies on. No, can't remember. But yeah, so the side effect of being on iOS that I've noticed for me is, I'm spending. But that's okay. I've since learned, and I've known on my iPhone 11 I haven't spent so much. Although my daily driver is still an Android, so I wouldn't be spending much anyway. But yeah. So I guess I'm always going to be keeping an iPhone in my toolkit. But it's not. I'm not going to be using. I'll just use it mainly for the Snapchats and for recording with Filmic Pro. I just get more options with Filmic Pro. I mean, don't get me wrong. My LG G8X still gives me a manual video camera, but I just prefer doing it on it's more comfortable doing it on this iPhone and then just being able to airdrop it simply to my iPad. Yes, more comfortable. Now, okay. Now, I guess I've just summed up my entire experience and my what iOS is going to just mean for me now. I guess I should really explain, why I'm sticking with Android. When, to be honest, if gun to my head, if I had to pick, only one platform to use, and this was a had to sort of thing, like some government order or whatever, it would probably be an iPhone. But while I have choice, I guess I could use Android. And why I use Android is not really based on any rational choice. I mean, yeah, we do have the reason. Android users do have the standard, you know, excuse reasons, that being able to customize better. But to be honest, I don't really. I'm a minimalist in terms of my wallpaper aesthetics. Like, I'm more function over form. So, although saying that, uh, you can Androids do Androids do customization way better. I was one of those people that was thinking, with iOS 14, oh my goodness, Apple finally lets you do more with your home screen. Android's in trouble. And then so I got the iOS 14 beta, and I had to eat my words because it's really not the same at all. It's pretty much like what iOS was trying to fix when they said, all right, guys, we'll clean up our notification. And, it's still not ideal at all. Like, if anything, I would say, if people who really do, if it could, iOS users who don't know have just gotten the taste of, what it's like to finally, customize their wallpaper or home screens or springboard. It could end up leading to using an Android phone, vice versa, because phones just do it better. But to address Robert's statement here, I would never use Android due to the privacy being somewhat questionable. If privacy was really a concern, well, you could achieve that way better on an Android phone that was built for privacy in mind than, an Apple an Apple phone. I mean, Tim Cook likes to, preach that, what happens on an iPhone stays on an iPhone. But then, out comes a bug that, kind of makes that whole thing just kind of laughable. But there is something, there is, if we're talking about, security of your profile, one thing I've been, that's been nagging me in my mind is, what would happen, let's say, if, because we all have Gmail accounts. If you're on YouTube, you have a Gmail account, most likely. And what happens if you call me, hey, mobile geezer, nobody does. Oh, now, I was going to say, I've just had this, fear in the back of my mind. What if one day Google goes haywire and bans you, blocks you from using their services? And and this isn't like a hypothetical. This has happened, where people. All right, like here's a story. Like one time, there were during a live stream, this creator was asking people to spam his. He was asking his viewers to spam his comments with emojis. So the viewers obliged him. Of course, this was against YouTube's terms of service, so they got blocked, and they didn't just get blocked off YouTube. They also got blocked off Google entirely. So they could not use Gmail, ladies and gentlemen. They had no access to their Gmail, and thus they had no access to Google Drive, Google Docs, and I don't even know like what would that mean then if you use Gmail as your sign-in for websites. Ugh. And that is very terrifying. So it would behoove you then to you don't really see that something that to that extent happening on Apple. Like I don't hear like does Apple block people entirely from their service? Like all right, boom, no more iPhone for you. Like you can't use our what do they use? Apple Mail. So if you were trying to like not put all your eggs in one basket, kind of hard to do on an Android phone, but it's a sensible to do. It's a sensible thing to do, like stacker it on an iPhone. And people who are trying to, not give Google so much, inroads to their, data or whatnot. Like, it's a chore. It's not impossible. Ask anyone who uses a Huawei phone in the U.S. Ah, that's good. Mm. But yeah, another reason why I chose, and it is a choice, why I use Android as a daily driver. Yeah, because of the personalization and customization, but also the excitement. There's Androids of different flavors all across the world. Some with two screens, some that are big and they can fold small, some that can do like a sidekick flip out thing. Like, it's just a nice, beautiful, wild jungle. Once you cut through the bushes, you might find a unicorn. It's it's really something. And also, if you let's say you have preferences on an Android, you know, it's not tough shit. You can find your preference. Like, speaking for me, my preference, I'm strongly prefer my phones to have a headphone jack and an SD card slot. And if I was an iPhone user, TS, but on Android, no, there's a phone for you out there. But but I think that's that all I've wanted to say. But but the iMessage prison, yeah, that's why all the kids are on iPhones, right? Well, I made sure to for iMessage to never get a foothold on me by never associating it with my number, but my email instead. And oh, you know, how do I avoid that iMessage prison? Well, I do it by being careful to not step into it. Of course, that does, if someone it were to give me an iMessage, if I don't have an Apple device in front of me, whether it's my MacBook, yeah, 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 or my iPad, yeah, then I would have to get the message later. I was flirting with the idea of getting an Apple Watch with a SIM in it, and that way I can get messages on me. But it's really not that serious. Nobody messages me like that anyway. But so that's enough really about me and what it's like using iOS Android user. The too long didn't watch version. If you're just tuning in, you're not silly, you're not stupid or sheep or really if you're on an iPhone. However, just really think about the broader world out there that you can use. But if you are creative, you should really strongly suggest consider owning an iPhone if you're an Android daily driver user. And basically, iPhones are not something that I love, but again, they're a very good tool. They're a good tool. But let's get on to the more exciting thing that happened today. Apple's One More Thing event. No, Joe. So you're saying that the same fragmentation that causes issues is also what gives the wonderful choices. When we said fragmentation, we usually just complain about, different Android phones are on different Android versions. And I wouldn't say that causes fragmentation. I would say that I'm on the more of the opinion that it's phones being on carriers that causes that fragmentation. And then of course, it's just some bad actors, OEMs they don't really prioritize updating their phone. And personally, yeah. But thank you for bringing that up, George, because personally for me, I've given up on Android updates. I have accepted that to be something that I just have to buy into when I buy another phone. Um, just give me the security updates, at least. But Apple's One More Thing Mac event. So you guys probably heard, well, not probably, you, Robert, and Max were just talking about it. You guys saw the short Apple One More Thing event. And yeah, it was short considering they just announced 3 products, didn't they? Mm. What? Personally, oh, no, George disagrees because Google lets each manufacturer do what they want. So you're putting more of the blame on the manufacturers. I'll put more of the blame on a carrier because, let's say if there was a manufacturer that wanted to update their phones properly, nicely, the carriers would kind of get in the way. Uh, an example would be OnePlus, wouldn't it? Because the carrier OnePlus phones do get updated a bit later. Well, yeah, OnePlus is great. So yeah, they do get updated later than their vanilla versions. Although Pixel phones don't even have that problem. So you know what, George? You are correct. It's probably more on the manufacturers and Google not doing anything. But yeah, 3 products. We have the MacBook Air, which I just learned while watching that show that is the highest selling Mac that Apple sells. A MacBook Pro, and then the Mac Mini. And you know what? I was happy to see that, the turn on for me for that announcement was the pricing for the 3 products. $1,000 for the MacBook Air. I forget how much the MacBook Pro would cost, but the Mac Mini was $699, which is $100 cheaper. And that, let's actually look at them. I'm curious. But that Mac Mini really had me thinking. Max says he's getting the new Mac Mini. I guess is that like a Christmas wish list? I would think your parents would be like, "Hey, you have a good computer, you game in on that. Now how are you gonna?" Well, you must have a job or something. I can't imagine a 14, 15-year-old just be like, "I'm getting a new Mac." But let me share my screen. But I was thinking on that. For $700, I'm thinking on this new Mac Mini. It's looking, I'm not gonna lie, I'm tempted. And I'm just feeling also a little bit salty too because I just bought an Intel PC for a grand total of 800 smockaroos. Let's see. And, and here there's supposed to be a tried in my mind, this Mac Mini. I'm thinking, it's an ARM processor, and it's going to be better than what's on my iPad Pro. And Lord knows the iPad Pro is very good for editing videos, especially 4K videos, especially HEVC encoded 4K videos. But here's the thing, Apple, the M1 chip, this is where, with these new Mac products with the M1 chip, I really have to do a wait and see approach. I really don't know how people who are not, reviewers, who just jumped in to buy this thing. And, this is just really, by its very definition, this isn't like Gen 1. It's not Gen 1 in the sense, when Apple released their new MacBook, which was just, new hardware. This is new hardware with new, with new software that's being used, like Rosetta. So this is something like it doesn't really pay to be like an early adopter, but and especially with this claims like this, where they say it's 3 times faster CPU performance, up to 6 times faster graphics. I like 6 times faster than what? 3 times faster CPU performance than what? I like they didn't even put like an asterisk where you have to scroll to the bottom and find out the truth. Let me scroll all the way down. Let me see if they say. Let me see if they mention anything about it. Testing conducted on an Apple using pre-production 13-inch. Okay, they talk about the but I don't care about. And okay, so they used the test. That's what they tested for the performance. Refers to ratio testing conducted in Apple using pre-production at Apple and production 3.6. Hold on. Testing conducted by Apple in October with the Apple M1 chip and production 3. That's what they're comparing it to? 3.6 quad core and i3. Those sons of bitches. These motherfuckers are comparing it to an i3 processor. Well, at least that's, 16 gigabytes of RAM, I guess. Oh my. Uh, okay. Okay. Huh. Huh. And, all right. Let me see what I can customize on this new Apple M1 Mac Mini 8-core GPU. So here's another thing that, beguiles me. 3 different products, all with the same M1 chip, and they're all touted to say, hey, different workloads. And I'm thinking, like, why are they so like different? Like, is it the fans? Do fans really play a part? So much a huge difference. Like, they'll say, hey, this is what's used for professionals, MacBook Air. It's just for the everyday person. Enjoy. But you also get a lot more performance. Duh. I really need for reviewers to step up in this. And this is beautiful. Like here, you'll see the Intel one that's sold for $1,000, and then you just look at this one for $899, and you're just they really just stared into a decision. Anyway, let me see. Ooh, how much RAM is right for me? All of them. Although I would probably. That's it. They really max out, huh? I would actually wait. Unified. Oh my gosh. What is it? On the Mac Mini, you can swap out the memory. It's not an easy thing to do, but you can do it. This unified memory, I'm not sure if you can. It might be soldered on. Oh boy. You know what? I'm not even tempted anymore. I don't even want the thing. I don't even want it. Let me go back up from the top. Almost anything would be, yes, almost anything would be more powerful. You would hope that something that's brand new that you're touting would be better than an i3. But yep, it does seem powerful though. But it seems very powerful because, again, in my mind, I'm just thinking Apple's ARM chips are very powerful. And, instead of buying a brand new laptop, I got a tablet. And in terms of performance, it has not let me down. And I'm thinking now, that power in a Mac Mini, but better. very tempting, but let's see. He was surprised. Yeah, I was surprised too, George. The price is good for $1,000. I'm not gonna hate because because originally what you pay for $1,000 for a MacBook or MacBook Air, it was really just you were just you're just a Chromebook user in style, really. Just using the word processor, typing your script in the Starbucks, or why I always gotta say Starbucks. What's something more fancier? What's fancier than that? Babe, what's fancier than Starbucks? Something has to be fancier. A Tim Hortons. Tim Hortons is fancier than Starbucks. Mm-mm. In my small city of Royce, we do have a place that's fancier than Starbucks, but I can't remember their name. Anyway, but let's check out the MacBook Air. In their comparison, they were saying it's 98% better than all laptops in its class. Now, the MacBook Air is an ultrabook. I think, this is an assumption once again, but I'm assuming by class they meant ultrabooks because MacBook Air started the whole ultrabook trend. Respect MacBook Air. So saying that, MacBook Air, if it is, the ultrabook, saying that, the Apple's MacBook Air is going to be more powerful than 98% of ultrabooks. Ultrabooks is a very large and wide category, but that saying it's a bit stronger than 98%. I would, I am attracted to that statement. Because in my mind, I'm thinking, that 2% must be really powerful. It's probably, souped out, tricked out, Dell XPS 13. But let's bear in mind, guys, ultrabooks are not necessarily, you can have i3 ultrabooks, or is it i5? I'm thinking what the Surface Book. I think did the Surface Book go down to an i3, or are they all just? No, I think they're all i5. Actually, no. Yeah, there's a criteria that Intel, in order for a laptop to be considered a ultrabook, oh my gosh, I think there are criteria. One of the criteria is it has to have an i5, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. Don't quote me on this, please. And also the dimensions has to be, small, slim, and sexy. But yeah, thinnest, lightest, CPU speeds 3.5 times faster, GPUs 5 times faster. Faster than what, though? Let's scroll to the bottom. Terms and conditions. Okay, testing conducted by Apple October using pre-production with 16 gigabytes of RAM, price performance. Well, testing conducted by Apple in October 2020 using pre-production MacBook Air systems with Apple M1 chip and an 8-core GPU, as well as a 1.2 gigahertz, Jesus Christ, quad-core Intel i7 MacBook Air. Now, this is an i7, mind you, so it's not an i3, but ladies and gentlemen, it is a 1.2 gigahertz quad core. It's it's an i7 that shouldn't even be called an i7. Who would purchase an did anyone purchase an i7 MacBook Air? But let's see what sort of attacks they perform. Tested with pre-release Final Cut Pro 10.5 using a 50-second clip with 4K Apple ProRes raw media. I wouldn't bring that anywhere near an Intel-based MacBook Air. 60 frames a second. And the fact that this can be that the MacBook Air with the M1 chip can handle that, I am color me impressed. But still, these well, you know what? At least Apple, at least we know now what they're comparing it to. So they're trying to give themselves the best light forward. But I really can't pay no mind to this marketing fluff. But that still doesn't mean this is something actually kind of special. No, George, no. You paid for an i7 processor in a MacBook Air? Why, George? Did you think you were going to do heavy lifting on that MacBook Air? You've got to know yourself. You know your. But ultimately, though, I am very optimistic with this. Yeah, I want to be optimistic of this M1 performance. Again, I think you, George, you would agree with me, seeing as we're both using iPad for the heavy lifting. You didn't use your 2015 i7 MacBook Air for your heavy liftings. You bought you bought an iPad Pro. But again, it's the same M1 chip that's ARM based. I don't even think Apple used that word ARM, but from what I'm hearing, it seems to be better than the whatever number X series that's on an iPad. And they're on the 3 products. I'm going to assume you bought a used or something, or you bought a refurbished. I'm getting sidetracked, but again, 3 different products, 3 different form factors: the Air, the Pro, and the Mac Mini. And I'm just thinking, for $1,000, you don't have to, bother, the Apple Genius Bar, family to family, or do much research to find out, okay, I want to edit video or this or do this, whatnot. You can finally just go to the Apple Store and really know that any of their Macs can handle, can at least, churn butter. You don't have to okay, what configuration, how many RAMs, blah, blah, blah. It's the chip. It'll handle it. The M1 chip can handle it. Maybe something can handle it in a more sustained duration, more consistent workloads. Maybe another one will give you better battery life and whatnot. But you don't have to shop around. It just makes it easier for you to actually shop, I think. And and so if you actually want to run a software I came I was all just I bought the first Apple device. For instance, for me, the first Apple device I bought was this MacBook. Let's look this up. Yeah, there it is. Oh no, I covered the Mac symbol. You can't see it. But I bought it simply because I wanted to edit videos, and the most straightforward process to use was iMovie. It was actually software that led me to an Apple device. And then, I wanted to, upgrade to Final Cut Pro, but the configuration of this MacBook, it would have been a tight fit, and also I probably would have also been, tempted to, edit, higher end footage, which this MacBook Pro, which is an i5 model, really wouldn't have liked. And so then, I think last year, or was it the year before, I got the iPad Pro, and now I'm in a situation now with my iPad Pro where I don't have to worry about what footage I throw in. I'm stuck using LumaFusion because that gives me a better workflow than using something like Premiere Rush, which is another option. But I don't have to worry about the footage. What's now more important is establishing a workflow, and that's, I think that's a positive now. like getting a workflow done. Like I can make the thumbnail and edit the video. Then if I and then I can just airdrop it to anything else if need be. And I I think that is really a handy thing, especially when I consider that these new Macs theoretically can run. Not only theoretically, they will run also iPad apps. And there might be an issue where touch inputs and whatnot, but some apps, like I know for sure, LumaFusion, I don't have to there's no learning curve or whatnot. Like I can just I've learned LumaFusion all these years on an iPad. When I get a Mac, when I do an upgrade and get a Mac, I can just use LumaFusion right there. So George is like, we will discuss. Yes, I'm very eager to discuss this with Will and Mike this Friday. But all in all, my thoughts is this, this is all very well and good on Apple. And, it's good for Apple because, more money in house. It's terrible for Intel because, what are those guys doing over there? They're losing business, even though Apple only was like 20, less than 20% of their business. It's still not looking good. But ultimately I think this is a stone in the lake, and we will feel those waves much better in the future. I'm thinking maybe a year or two from now, because personally, I like to edit on the go for photos as a photographer, and I like to carry my iPad with me so that whenever I'm doing a shoot, an event shoot, and I want to just share photos right away, I can just bring in the RAWs on my iPad and just start editing and then share them with my client, who if they have an iPhone or whatever, I can just simply AirDrop, or if they don't, then have to just email it to them. But I'm excited, for the future in terms of what Apple has brought out. But what would this mean for me? I still have this $800 computer. Do I feel salty that I bought it? Not really, because I'm just gonna have to wait and see really. Besides, I didn't really pay like $800. Me and my girlfriend are sharing it, and she paid the $300 and I paid the rest. So really, I got a very capable machine for $500 that I paid for personally. But am I even going to use the damn thing? I paid $500 for something for me to use to try out Capture One and Lightroom Classic. And if my girlfriend gets around to learning After Effects, to import those titles over to my iPad. Yeah, let's pour one out for Intel. It's only 20%, but these 2 years are very exciting for Apple. But if Intel does something, pour one out for Intel. Unless Intel does something, whoo, Intel needs to do something, or else the next 2 years are going to be, it's going to be like a downward trend, and they're going to have to do a lot more to change the inertia of that downward trend, because Ryzen ARM is just looking a whole lot more attractive. Oh, but that is the show, folks. For those watching, anyone else watching besides George, go ahead and click on his AVI or profile click and subscribe to his channel, because we're going to have a show on Friday, 7 p.m. But until then, you guys have a good night and have a blessed Veterans Day tomorrow. Thank you to our veterans for serving our nation and our securities.